Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, more on the polls that we analyzed yesterday in yesterday's video. There was an interesting tidbit that kind of paints a very interesting picture, not just for the 2022 elections, but also for the 2024 elections. And it's widely known that one of Donald Trump's most limiting factors for the first term of his presidency, especially in his second half of his first term, was that he did not have enough support in Congress to really pass through his agenda, especially in the United States Senate, because it was such a narrow margin. Even though Republicans had the Senate, it wasn't really by a rhino-proof margin. However, 2022, you're seeing a lot of good candidates that are rising through the ranks in a lot of these swing seat races that are going to be up for grabs. And in 2024, the map is even more favorable for the Republicans. And it has been long questioned if a lot of these Rust Belt seats like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin that have Senate seats that are up for grabs in 2024, if it is possible that the incumbents could lose. And the latest poll out of Marquette, which is still likely underestimating Republicans and overestimating Democrats, shows that Tammy Baldwin, the current senator there, is underwater. Baldwin won in 2018 by 11 points, although she really didn't face any serious opposition. So, if Baldwin is in trouble in 2024 and Republicans retake the Senate in 2022, it is very possible that Donald Trump could enter his second term if he runs and he wins in 2024 with 60 or even more than that Senate seats. So we are going to dive into this, and I'm going to explain why Republicans may hold the Senate forever. Democrats may not hold it again for the next, 50, 60 years or so, despite demographic changes in their favor, despite many other things happening. You're probably going to see more calls on the left to abolish the Senate over the next 30 years or so. So we're going to get into this, but first I have to tell you about our sponsor, our latest sponsor over at the Epoch Times. What is the Epoch Times? The Epoch Times brings you breaking U.S. and world news on all your devices and original Epoch TV programs like popular podcasts and award-winning documentaries. Why do we trust the Epoch Times? They report important news and facts that other media ignore, focusing on clear, fact-based journalism without hidden agendas so you can arrive at your own conclusions. Despite the attacks from many sides and the defamation from other media, the Epoch Times continue to dedicate themselves to reporting the truth, so give them a try. We think you'd like it. We have a special offer for our viewers here, $1 for 2 months at epochtime.es/redeagle and subscribe. The link is in the pinned comment down below. So, this poll is very interesting because there is a wide open Senate map in 2024 and not a lot of people are talking about it, but Democrats are going to be in some serious trouble because you look at the Senate seats that are available, and if you add Wisconsin to the easy flip list, it's not going to be looking good for Democrats because they're not going to be able to retain the Senate in 2024. They're likely going to lose it in 2022, make no mistake. I'm not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but let's actually analyze the map in 2022, and then we'll go to 2024, and I'll explain why this is such an issue for the Democrats. So obviously independent, there are two independents that caucus with the Democrats. I'm just going to get rid of that because it's just confusing and give those seats to the Democrats because they're de facto Democrat seats, and it's very possible that King and Sanders will both end up retiring after 2024. So this cycle, let's say that Republicans will hold the seats that they have. Let's say Oz does pull it off in Pennsylvania. They flip Nevada and Georgia, which I believe they would do if the election was even today, and they manage to have a victory in Arizona. Blake Masters ends up winning it at the end of the day. Okay, that's 53. That was our latest Senate prediction, and that is the prediction that I stand by today. We'll do another prediction, a formal prediction, in October for the 2022 midterms. But let's say they have 53 seats. Okay, what other seats are really up for grabs that they could get in 2022? Maybe New Hampshire. Some people will say Colorado or Washington State. I think those are long shots. New Hampshire, there's a chance there. Bolduc is pivoting to the general election, but it might just be a little bit too late. I think it's lean D. Could be tilty at the end of the day. It would just take a more massive wave than what we're going to see here to get Republicans that seat in New Hampshire. I just can't see it. But you go to 2024 here, there are a lot of wide open seats. How many seats are available in states that Donald Trump won in 2016. You have Ohio, you have West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Montana, and Arizona, all on the board, in addition to Nevada, which is a state that Trump is probably going to flip in 2024. It's possible that all those states, at least at the rate that we're going, are going to go Republican in 2024 at the presidential level. And you know that the coattails do end up applying to down ballot races, especially in presidential years. Donald Trump turning out his base in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin added a lot of votes and padded the margins of victory for Pat Toomey and Ron Johnson, respectively. People might say, well, they had a wider margin of victory than Donald Trump, but at the same time, there were a lot of voters who voted for Trump that got out to vote that also voted red down ballot that may not have done so if the Republican nominee was somebody like Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or especially Jeb Bush or literally any other Republican in the race. So do keep that in mind. But you understand this, and we talk about polarization increasing. You're not going to see ridiculous disparities between presidential race margins and Senate race margins. You want to look in 2020, Montana, for example, the aforementioned Montana, Democrats had their star candidate in Steve Bullock. He was their sitting governor, the governor that won when Trump won the state by 20 points. But 4 years later in 2020, when he was going for Senate instead of governor, well, he ended up losing by 10 points. He lost by 10 points to Steve Daines in the state of Montana. Trump won the state by a little bit over 16. So the margin of disparity was 6 points. So in terms of the Senate seats that are up for grabs, West Virginia is likely going to be out of reach. If Manchin runs for Senate again, which I don't even believe he will, some people are saying he might even run for governor, we are going to see West Virginia Senate seat flipping. Even if he did run again, he probably would lose by 15 to 20 points, and that's being generous at a very minimum. He should have lost in 2018, but he was saved because of his Kavanaugh vote. He was also saved because the Republican candidate was downright awful and didn't really run a serious campaign. And the same thing could be said for the state of Ohio, because Sherrod Brown, he only won by 6 to 7 points against Jim Renacci, who essentially gave up before his campaign even started. He didn't even try. I honestly think if you had a better candidate, it would have been much closer, if not a race that could have been flipped even in a blue wave 2018 environment. And that Senate race voted to the right of the national environment by 2 points with Sherrod Brown. And you're talking about Ohio, a state where Donald Trump is potentially poised to win it by 10 to even 15 points against Joe Biden, or probably even by a wider margin if Kamala Harris is the nominee in 2024. We know damn well that Ohio's Senate seat is going to flip. Sherrod Brown is all but DOA. If Trump didn't run for president and like DeSantis was the nominee, maybe we could talk about it being a different story, less, down ballot Republican voters, maybe lower turnout. DeSantis only wins Ohio by 6. Maybe you could say, make an argument for that. I don't know. But as of right now, I believe that Ohio's Senate race in 2024 is going to flip Republican. And Sherrod Brown, he probably will lose by around, 5 to 10 points or so at this current rate that we're going here. So the state of Montana, that's another one. You look at the state of Montana. You look at the fact that in 2018, Jon Tester barely got by, and Matt Rosendale didn't really run the greatest campaign against him. He's doing a very great job as the current, statewide at-large representative. If he ran a campaign again, he probably would have better resources. He would defeat Tester this time. If Tester even ran again, he probably would defeat Tester by, 10 points or more. That's another insta-flip for the Republicans right there out of the state of Montana. So it's 56 to 44. And then you're talking about what other states. We previously mentioned Wisconsin. Who knows who's going to go for it? Maybe Sean Duffy, maybe Tom Tiffany. Who knows? But that's 57. So now we're talking about the path to 60, and the path to 60 is very real, as aforementioned. I believe Nevada's going to flip. Jackie Rosen is another weak incumbent. She, got by 4 points in a blue wave year in 2018, and that was back when the Reid machine was still intact in the state of Nevada. Now it's not. So we're talking about that seat flipping. So that's 58 for the Republicans. and 42 for the Democrats. So the path to 60 is there, and it's getting closer, and there's several paths to 60 for the Republicans. Some people will say, what if Youngkin runs in Virginia? Could that Senate race flip? And I don't really believe it will, because federal races are vastly different than statewide races, and even if Trump narrows his margin of defeat in Virginia to like 6 or 7, Youngkin probably would lose to Tim Kaine by, I don't know, 3 points or so. It would be competitive. But if Kaine retired and Democrats put up, I don't know, somebody like Terry McAuliffe, I don't know, maybe, but that's a long shot at this point. I think Youngkin will serve out his term as governor. But in terms of the other races that are going to be up for grabs, you look at Arizona, where Kyrsten Sinema is not as popular as a lot of people make her out to be, for one. For two, she'll probably get primaried out at this point, which would mean that Republicans would have a much better chance at flipping it against somebody like Ruben Gallego. However, even if she does win the nomination, it's very possible that if Trump wins the state of Arizona, I don't know, by 3 points or more, that seat could very well end up flipping Republican if you can have a candidate that could expose Sinema for who she is. I don't know who that would be at this point. It's very possible that Andy Biggs could go for Senate. You could see that race flip there. Also in Michigan, Stabenow in 2018, she only won by around 6 to 7 points or so. I don't know who would exactly go up against Stabenow. John James already lost the last 2 Senate elections that he ran in. Him going up again for a third time, probably not going to happen. Maybe John Gibbs. John Gibbs could go for it if he wins in 2022, this cycle, for his House seat, because there's not a very good chance he'll hold it in 2024. So he can go for Senate. And then at that point, I believe that he could win the state. He'd be a great candidate against Stabenow. I don't know who the candidate would really be, but it's very possible Michigan could flip red. And then we're talking about a state like Pennsylvania. And Bob Casey is somebody that a lot of people for a long time have really, categorized as an electoral juggernaut, and I could understand why. His father was an institution in the state, but this is a guy who still votes with Joe Biden nearly 100% of the time. A lot of people are fed up with him. Barletta didn't really campaign very well against him in 2018. Even if he did, maybe it would have gotten within 10 or so, and they would have shown some signs of cracks in his popularity. But I believe that Casey could go down if Trump is going up against Biden and Trump wins the state by 3 or 4. The down ballot effects could carry a Republican over him, assuming it's a good candidate, by a point or two as well in that election. Just really depends who the candidate really is. We'll wait and see, but Pennsylvania could flip. Then we're talking about, maybe you throw in a long shot in there. New Mexico, Minnesota, I don't really want to get into that. I think it's more likely that Bolduc wins this fall than either one of those flip in 2024, especially because Klobuchar is the senator that is going to be on the ballot in 2024, assuming that she runs again. So 61 Senate seats is possible. Now we talk about the far future, because what about 2026? What about 2028? And in 2026, assuming Trump wins, it will probably be a blue wave year of sorts. I'm not going to say it's going to be as bad as 2018, but I do believe that it will be a year that's Democrat favorable. The second, term waves are not usually as big as the first term waves if you look at 1998, 2014, the one exception being in 2006 because Bush's approval was so low. But either way, let's assume that for the sake of argument, Dems do pick off North Carolina. They fall short in Texas. In 2026, there's not a whole lot of other high-profile Senate races that are up for grabs. Maybe Maine. I think if Collins runs again, she would pull it off. But if she doesn't, then maybe we could say Maine would flip. It's going to flip back eventually unless Maine continues to trend to the right enough to a point where it will be a state where Republicans have a better chance at winning. And let's assume that Republicans don't really flip Michigan back, or let's assume that they don't flip Georgia back, mainly because of Georgia's trends. So let's say it's 59 to 41. 2028 rolls around. Herschel Walker loses his seat due to trends in 2028. What else exactly happens? Maybe you want to say Democrats find a way to flip back Arizona. If Carrie Lake is the governor there and she does, a terraforming of the state the way that the DeSantis did in Florida, I really don't see it. I think Georgia is the 2028 flip. The Democrats will be eyeing to flip back. I don't believe they'll flip back Nevada because the state party is in disarray. Obviously, you can't predict the far future, but this is what I'm seeing right now for 2028. So then we talk about the far, far future. Republicans have been through a red wave year, a blue wave year, and then a neutral year and have 58 Senate seats. So let's say demographic changes kick in. Let's say Blexis becomes a reality for some reason and Republicans only hold one seat in North Carolina. And let's even say that Arizona is gone. And let's say that one of the Pennsylvania seats flips back and Pennsylvania and Michigan remain swing states. And this is like a worst case scenario for the Republicans. And let's even say that Nevada, they lose a seat, and it doesn't matter. Republicans still hold the Senate. They hold 52 Senate seats going into the far, far future. We're talking about 2030s, 2040s. And that's even assuming it's like a bad year for them. And they're holding 52 Senate seats. It's going to take a long, long time for Democrats to retake the Senate. They have completely screwed themselves because they've been pandering to suburban elites that, are mainly congregated in places like California and New York, etc. And even though the Electoral College might be in limbo, it is very possible that Texas does go, which is not a sure thing. But for the sake of argument, let's say Texas goes and the electoral winter kicks in of sorts. Republicans will still always hold the Senate for the far, far future. And at that point, if there's no resources to put into Texas, they're probably going to put more into Michigan. They're going to put more into a state like Pennsylvania, and they're going to maintain a decent amount of power. Maybe they do get a seat back up in New England, whether it's in Maine or New Hampshire. And that's like on average 55 Senate seats or so for the Republicans in the far, far future. So it's not looking good for Democrats in the future, but that is the way that it is. That's why these midterms are so important. But also, what senators do you have in power? Do you have a Senate majority leader like Mitch McConnell that is weak, that caves in on everything? Do you have a lot of senators like Lindsey Graham, like Lisa Murkowski, who are going to be utterly and completely useless? Or do you have fighters in there, people like Blake Masters, people that are going to be decent and people that are going to be solid Republicans? That's the question then that you have to answer. But it is very possible that Donald Trump is going to take power in January of 2025 with a Senate that is going to be super majority Republican. You can get a lot more done that way. You could pass a lot more legislation, cause a lot more positive changes to go into effect to undo the liberal agenda that has been poisoning our society for the past 60, 70 years or so. So we'll wait and see. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.